In this lecture, we will learn about how to draw linear equations on graph, or how to represent linear equation in two variables on a graph. First, we consider this example, y minus x is equal to 2. First, we must find the solution of this equation. Let the solutions be, say, x, y. For x is equal to 0, y is 2. For x is equal to minus 2, y is 0. And for x is equal to 1, y is equal to 3. Now, to know how we have found these solutions, you can check our video on solution of linear equation. In that video, we have explained how we have found these solutions. Now, we want to plot these points on the graph. Let it be x-axis, this is y-axis. Say this is 1, 2, 3, 4, minus 1, minus 2, minus 3. We all know how to plot a point on the graph. So, we will simply plot these points on the graph. When x is 0, y is 2. It is represented by this point. Similarly, when x is minus 2, y is 0, which is this point. And one more point, when x is 1, y is 3. Because this graph is not as per scale, so maybe I won't get a straight line. But on the graph paper, you will get, if you join these 3 points, you will get a straight line. And this line is y minus x is equal to 2. So this is the graphical representation of y minus x is equal to 2. Similarly, consider this equation in two variable. Let me write 3 solutions of this equation, x and y. When x is 0, y is minus 2. When x is 4, y is 4. And when x is 2, y is 1. Again, we will plot, this line is not straight, x and y. We will plot these points on the graph paper. X positive side, negative, y positive, and y negative. 0, minus 2. When x is 0, y is minus 2. This point. When x is 4, y is 4. So it is roughly here, 4, 4. And when x is 2, y is 1. So if I join these 3 points, I'll get a straight line. And this straight line is nothing but 3x minus 2y is equal to 4. So this line, when on graph, it will be like this. So what we see, that linear equation in two variable, when points are plotted on the graph paper, you will always get a straight line. That's why linear equation, because it represents a line on the graph paper. Now what about lines which are parallel to x-axis and y-axis? I hope I'm able to draw a straight line now. X and y-axis. Now any line which is parallel to x-axis. Now consider this line, L. This is parallel to x-axis. So any line which is parallel to x-axis, its distance from x-axis is always constant. Let this distance be b. So equation of this line will be y is equal to b, where b is any constant. It can be positive as well as negative. So any line which is parallel to x-axis is of the form y is equal to b. For example, say y is equal to 3 or y is equal to minus 2. These lines will always lines which are parallel to x-axis. Similarly, any line which is parallel to y-axis. Any line which is parallel to y-axis, say this line, M. This is parallel to y-axis, and we find that its distance from the y-axis is always constant. This distance is always constant, and let this distance be a. And as it is on the negative side of the y-axis, so it is minus a. The general form is x is equal to a. For example, x is equal to 3 or x is equal to minus 2. Such type of equation always represent lines which are parallel to y-axis. Now, say x is equal to 3. This is a line which is parallel to y-axis and at a distance of 3 centimeter from it on the positive side. Similarly, x is equal to minus 2, again a line parallel to y-axis but on the negative side of y-axis. Now suppose we have an equation, say y is equal to 2, and I want to represent this line on the graph paper as one variable, not as two variables. Or say, let me take first as x is equal to 2. X is equal to 2 as one variable. I want to draw this on number line or graph. As it is equation in one variable, so I'll simply draw a straight line, number line, minus 1, minus 2, then x is equal to 2. This point represents this equation. So it is not a straight line. Whenever this equation is in one variable, it will represent only a point. Whereas if I want to represent x is equal to 2 as equation in two variables, then I must plot this point on a coordinate plane, x and y-axis. I have to draw x as well as y-axis because it is in two variables. So x is equal to 2. Consider this. Now x is equal to 2, 1 and 2. Now as it is in two variable, it will always represent a straight line. In this case, it was simply a point on the number line, whereas in this case, it represents a line which is parallel to y-axis. X is equal to 2 is a line parallel to y-axis. So this is how we represent equation as one variable or as two variable. One variable on simple number line, whereas in two variable on a coordinate plane with x and y-axis, it will represent a line, whereas in this case it will simply represent a point.